The skies above Earth were no longer blue. They burned with fire and smoke. The alien armada had arrived in full force, surrounding the planet like a cage of death. Earth's defense lines had fallen one by one. The last space fleet had been wiped out in orbit just hours ago. The enemy ships were massive, cold silver giants that moved like shadows. Their weapons tore through cities, mountains, and oceans without mercy. Deep below the surface of the Earth, in a hidden command bunker, the last human leaders gathered. There were no more hopeful speeches, no more promises, just silence. Walls trembled above them with distant explosions. The room was lit only by red emergency lights. On the table in front of them, a hologram showed what remained of human territory. Almost nothing, just small red dots, blinking slowly. General Amina stood with clenched fists. Her uniform was torn. Blood stained her collar, not her own, but that of the officer who died beside her in the last retreat. Across the table sat Admiral Ruiz, his eyes cold, staring at the map like it had betrayed him. They had no fleet, no soldiers left, and no more time. "We are out of options," Amina said finally, her voice low but steady. "The enemy is already preparing to land on our final defense zone." "We send the civilians into the deep shelters," someone replied. "We hold them off with ground units." "No," said Ruiz, shaking his head. "We can't stop them. Not like this." For a moment, silence filled the room again. Then a voice spoke from the shadows. Old, rough, like gravel under boot. "There's one more option," said Marshal Kovac. A man long thought retired. He stepped into the light. His face was hard, his eyes darker than the bunker around them. "We call them." The room shifted. Everyone looked at him, confused, worried. Amina narrowed her eyes. "You don't mean—" "I do," he said. "The buried ones." A chill spread through the air. No one spoke. The only sound was the low hum of power generators far below. "Their feet." "You're talking about the drowned," Ruiz said, his voice almost a whisper. "The species locked away centuries ago. The ones even the ancient machines feared." Marshal Kovac nodded. "They were sealed for a reason, but they were powerful, too powerful. The gods of the old worlds tried to erase them, but they failed. We didn't destroy them. We just buried them deep in the black." "You want to unbury a monster?" asked Amina. "You think that will save us?" "I think it's the only chance we have left." Arguments erupted. Some shouted, calling it madness. Others sat in stunned silence. But the truth hung heavy over them. Earth was dying. Their enemy showed no mercy, and the rest of the galaxy had turned its back on humanity long ago. One by one, the leaders stopped arguing. Their eyes turned to the map again. The red dots were blinking faster now. That meant one thing: impact. The enemy had begun their final strike. Amina looked at Kovac. "Where is the vault?" He pulled out a small silver device from his coat, a data shard, glowing faintly, hidden beyond the edge of known space. "A deep space vault station, coded Project Burial. Only one ship can reach it in time." Ruiz nodded slowly. "Then we send the ship." "Who do we send?" asked someone from the back. "Who would even go?" There was only one answer: Amina. She didn't speak. She simply walked over, took the data shard, and tucked it into her armor. No ceremony, no goodbyes. She turned and walked out of the room as the walls shook once more. Above ground, the sky had turned black. Fire rained from orbit. Enemy troops began to land near the final human zones. The ground cracked. Oceans boiled. Earth cried out. But no one answered. Until now. In the dark hangars of a forgotten base, a stealth ship warmed up. Its engines were silent, its armor black as space itself. Amina entered the cockpit. Her hands moved fast, steady, trained. She knew there would be no backup, no rescue. As the ship rose from the bunker, it passed over the burning remains of a human city. And then, in the blink of an eye, it vanished into the stars. Far, far away, in a sector marked Forbidden on ancient maps, a vault waited. It had been silent for centuries, wrapped in magnetic storms, hidden by dead satellites and ghost codes. No one had gone near it. No one dared. But now, something stirred. Inside that vault were creatures not born of flesh nor machine. They were something else, something forgotten, something made for war beyond reason. The prison locks on the vault blinked for the first time in 600 years. Amina's ship approached, and somewhere, in a dark corner of the galaxy, something opened its eyes, not with anger, not with hunger, but with purpose. The humans had called, and the drowned were waking. The stars around the ship were quiet, cold, and empty. Amina sat alone in the pilot's seat as her vessel moved through the dark sector. No signal lights, no sound, even space itself seemed to be holding its breath. The path ahead was marked only by a single pulse, a deep code signal, older than any living human. The code came from the forgotten vault. Behind her, Earth was burning. She didn't need to see it. She could feel it in her bones. Every second counted. Every breath she took was borrowed time. Her ship's computer gave a soft tone. Vault station approaching in 1/200 seconds. Warning, containment signals unstable. That meant the vault was reacting to her presence. Or maybe it had sensed the end of the world. Either way, the locks were waking up. The vault came into view like a dead god's eye. A massive black sphere floated in the void, covered in scars and ancient damage. Energy fields flickered across its surface. Around it, broken satellites drifted like bones. Amina adjusted her course and moved in. Her fingers trembled slightly as she activated the handshake signal from the data shard. It wasn't fear. It was something deeper, a feeling she couldn't explain, like something was watching her from the inside of her own mind. The vault responded with a low, deep hum. The sound made her teeth hurt. Identity confirmed. Access granted. A circular gate opened on the vault's surface, like a metal flower blooming in slow motion. The ship moved inside. The moment she entered, everything changed. The light faded. The noise stopped. The stars disappeared. It was like the ship had fallen into another reality. Inside the vault, the walls were made of black metal, covered in glowing symbols that moved like water. The air was thick, though there was no real air at all. Strange machines floated silently in the background, scanning her ship with soft blue lights. Amina guided the vessel to a small landing dock. As she stepped out, the metal under her feet felt warm, like it remembered being alive. Ahead of her stood a single door. A voice, old and full of static, echoed in her mind. "Why have you come here, child of Earth?" She didn't speak out loud. She just thought, and the vault heard. "We're dying. We need your help." There was a long pause. Then the door opened. Amina stepped into a wide chamber filled with mist. In the center was a crystal cage. Inside floated a being unlike anything she had ever seen. It had no face, no real shape. It shimmered like oil and shadow. And yet, it felt alive, more alive than anything she had known. The voice returned. "Do you understand what you are asking?" She nodded slowly. "You want us to fight. You want us to kill for you again." Amina didn't answer right away. Then she said, "Not for us. For the right to survive." The being in the cage moved, slowly, like smoke in water. "The gods sealed us here. They feared us more than death. We were not destroyed. We were forgotten, buried." "I know," she said. But we remember, and we're out of time. The cage began to crack. The energy holding the creature began to flicker. Outside the chamber, red lights blinked awake. Other cells, hidden deep in the vault, started to open one by one. Doors hissed. Old machines sparked. The air grew colder. The drowned were waking. Amina stepped back as the cage shattered. The creature didn't attack her. It hovered in the air, then slowly shifted into a more solid form, a tall, thin figure wrapped in shadows and glowing lines. It looked like a humanoid, but its face was still hidden. "We remember war," it said. "We remember betrayal. You ask us to rise again. What will you give in return?" Amina took a breath. "A chance to live, for us, and for you." The being tilted its head. "And when the war ends, we will find a way to live together, or at least not fight again." The being said nothing for a long time, then finally it nodded. "Then let the galaxy burn." Across the vault, hundreds of containment chambers opened. The drowned rose from their sleep, silent, watching, remembering. Each one different. Some were liquid shadows, others looked like machines, wrapped in ancient armor. But all of them were deadly. All of them were waiting. The vault itself came alive. Its systems powered up for the first time in centuries. Weapons formed from walls. Ships began to assemble, black, smooth, and terrifying. Amina walked back to her ship. Her mission was done. But something inside her had changed. She had touched the dark, and it had touched her back. As she took off, the drowned war fleet followed, not with sound, not with fire, but with silence. A silence so deep that even space seemed to scream. Earth had called for help, and now the buried ones were free. Amina's ship broke out of the dark sector with the drowned fleet behind her. There was no sound in space, but if there were, the stars would have cried out. The forgotten ones, once sealed, once erased from memory, were now awake, and they were not slow. They moved like a shadow storm, their ships gliding faster than light, impossible to track. On Earth's edge, the final line of defense was collapsing. Alien dreadnoughts surrounded Earth's moons. Human colonies had gone dark, one by one. The invaders called themselves the Solari Dominion, ancient, powerful, and cruel. Their leaders laughed when Earth begged for peace. To them, humanity was weak, scattered, and easy to crush. But something was coming, something the Solari hadn't seen, couldn't see, not until it was already too late. In Earth's orbit, General Reyes stood aboard the last functioning command ship, Titan's Mercy. His eyes were bloodshot, his hands clenched behind his back. The Solari fleet filled the sky. Their next wave was preparing to land. "Status of the orbital shield?" he asked. "Gone, sir. Crashed 2 hours ago. We have ground batteries left, but they'll fall in minutes." Reyes nodded. "Any word from Amina?" The officer shook her head. "Nothing since she entered the vault sector." Reyes sighed. "Then we're out of time." But just then, the screen lit up, not with a human signal, not even Solari tech. No, this signal was older, deeper. Something in the ship's systems groaned, like metal afraid to move. The message was simple. "We heard your cry." Then, the sky changed. The first drowned ship appeared out of nowhere, just beyond Saturn. It didn't jump in with bright lights or heavy sound. It simply was. A black, long vessel, shaped like a blade, silent and cold. Then another. Then 10 more. Then 1,000. The Dominion sensors screamed. They couldn't lock on. Their scans bounced back, twisted and broken. Inside the Dominion war room, High Marshal Velkar snarled. "What are they?" One of his aides whispered, "Unknown, not in any database." Velkar hissed, "Then add them and destroy them." The Solari dreadnoughts opened fire. Bright plasma waves, antimatter shells, sunbeam lances, all thrown toward the drowned fleet, but nothing hit. The weapons stopped mid-space, like time froze around them. The drowned ships didn't fire back at first. They just watched. Then one moved. It didn't shoot missiles. It reached out. A single drowned ship pointed toward the nearest Solari dreadnought. A ripple of energy surged forward, soft, silent, like a whisper in the void. Then, the Solari ship shattered. Not exploded, shattered, folded inward, like paper burning in reverse. Its pieces didn't scatter. They disappeared. Erased. The Solari fleet paused. Fear. Real fear. They fired again. This time, everything they had. And again, nothing touched the drowned. But now the forgotten ones responded. Their ships pulsed. Black light poured forward, cutting, through space like blades. Solari vessels vanished. Whole sections of their fleet blinked out in silence. No wreckage, no distress calls, just gone. On board Titan's Mercy, the humans watched in silence. Reyes whispered, "By God, what did we unleash?" Amina's voice came through the static. "You unleashed the truth." Her image flickered onto the main screen. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with something else, something deeper than hope. "You asked for a miracle," she said, "but what we brought. It's older than miracles. The drowned were not made to save. They were made to end. And now, they fight for us." The Dominion ships began to retreat. Their command ship turned away from Earth, its engines flaring. But the drowned didn't chase. They didn't have to. The very space around the Dominion fleet twisted. Exit points collapsed. Warp fields failed. The drowned weren't just attacking. They were rewriting the battlefield. On the ground, Earth's people looked up. The skies were filled with black ships, moving in quiet patterns, never touching each other, never needing to. Children pointed. Elders wept. For the first time in years, the skies weren't full of fire. They were full of fear, but not humanity's. "General," Reyes turned to Amina's image. "Can we trust them?" She didn't answer at first. "They were buried for a reason," she said finally. "The gods feared them. Even the stars forgot them. But they didn't forget us. They remembered Earth. And when we called, they listened." Reyes nodded slowly. "Then we pray they keep listening." But deep inside the vault, back in the sector no one dared enter, something else moved. One last cage. One final lock, still sealed, still waiting. And on its cold prison wall, one line glowed in red. "Do not awaken, do not release." Even the drowned feared this one. But the signal was already reaching it, and it was listening. The stars had gone. Quiet, as if watching in fear. Across the ruined systems once held by the Solari Dominion, their fleet was gone, not destroyed. Erased. Entire star bases, orbital fortresses, and dreadnoughts had disappeared without warning. No one heard screams. No wreckage floated in space. Just silence. That's how the drowned worked. Quiet, precise, final. But peace didn't come, because the drowned were still here. They floated in Earth's orbit like a wall of shadows. No communication, no signals. Just their ships, tall, black, and humming with unnatural energy. Inside the human command center, General Reyes watched the skies with narrowed eyes. "They've been here 3 days," he muttered. "Not a word, not a movement." Amina stood beside him. Her return from the vault had made her a symbol of survival, but her eyes showed the weight of what she had done. "They won't stay silent forever," she said quietly. "They answered our call. Now they wait for something." Reyes turned. "Something? What kind of something?" Amina hesitated. "I don't know, but I felt it. deep inside the vault. Something else moved when I called them. Something older than the drowned. Something even they sealed away. Reyes didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Then let's pray that thing stays asleep." But prayers weren't enough. Far from Earth, in a forgotten star system that no one charted anymore, a black moon cracked open. Inside, a machine screamed awake. Not with sound, but with memory. Something had heard the signal, not the call meant for the drowned, but what leaked beneath it. And now, it was coming. Back on Earth, the skies trembled. The drowned ship suddenly moved. Not toward the humans, but toward the edge of the system. Hundreds of their vessels vanished into black tunnels that opened like tears in space. General Reyes stood up. "Where are they going?" "Unknown," said a technician. "But it's not retreat." Amina stepped forward, heart racing. "They're moving to intercept." Reyes blinked. "Intercept what?" She looked at him, voice cold. "Something worse." And then the reports came in, a black hole that wasn't there before, just outside the Zeta Rim, growing, spinning with wrong energy. Not pulling things in, but pushing something out. A monster. No one could describe what the sensors were picking up. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a fleet. It was a presence, one that bent time, broke light, and moved with purpose. The drowned reached it first. From long-range drones, Earth's people watched. The drowned, so powerful, so feared, opened fire. Whole waves of dark energy lit the void, but none of it landed. Something blocked it. Something that pulsed. Something that looked like a world-sized heart, wrapped in armor, floating in the void. Then came the signal. "I am awake." It shook every human mind that heard it. No words, just feeling, rage, hunger, return. It had no name in human tongue, but the drowned called it the Hollow King, a being they locked away in the First Age, before stars had names, before gods ruled, before memory, and now it had returned. Inside the command center, Reyes leaned over the console. "How do we fight something like that?" "We don't," Amina whispered. "We hope the drowned can. But even the drowned were falling. The battle was one-sided. One by one, their ships vanished, not from being destroyed, but from being unwritten, like they had never existed at all. Back in the vault sector, a different kind of alarm began to ring. One that hadn't activated in a million years, a cage, was weakening. A seal, carved in star metal and locked with forgotten codes, began to break. Amina felt it, like a whisper in her bones. "The second one," she breathed. "It's waking up too." Reyes turned. "Second one? I thought you said the Hollow King was the worst." She shook her head. "The drowned sealed too, one with power, and one with will." She looked him in the eye. "The Hollow King destroys, but the buried one, it commands." Another pulse hit the planet. Earth's oceans rose unnaturally, pulled by something beyond gravity. The skies glowed red. Animals panicked. Machines failed. The veil between real and unreal grew thin. Then, above Antarctica, a rift appeared. It was small at first, a tear in the sky. Then it opened wider, like a mouth, and from it stepped a figure, not a ship, not a weapon, a being, tall, wrapped in armor that moved like smoke. No face, no voice, just presence. The buried one. The one even the Hollow King feared. It didn't speak. It just looked at Earth, and then it looked at the Hollow King's direction. Something passed between them, a tension, a memory, and the Hollow King paused. Back. In the stars, the drowned regrouped. They didn't attack again. They simply watched. So did Earth. And for a moment, the entire galaxy held its breath. Amina stood at the edge of the command deck, heart frozen. She didn't know if Earth had been saved, or if this was just the beginning of the real war. Everyone watched the sky, but no one spoke. The buried one stood alone in the rift above Antarctica. No weapons, no fleet, just silence. Yet its presence pushed against every human mind. Scientists fainted, soldiers trembled. Animals across the planet screamed into the wind. General Reyes gripped the edge of the command table. "Is it attacking?" "No, sir," the technician replied with a shaking voice. It's just standing there." Amina stared at the figure. Her hands clenched tightly. "It's not here for us. Not yet." Reyes turned to her. "Then why is it here?" "To challenge the Hollow King," she whispered. "The gods buried both of them because even they couldn't stop the fight." Out near the edge of the solar system, the Hollow King pulsed again. The heart-shaped monstrosity began to move, slow at first, then faster, as if it sensed something. Unexpected. A threat. And then the buried one moved, not through space, not through normal time. It vanished, and appeared in deep space, in front of the Hollow King. There was no sound, but something broke. Satellites died instantly. Energy readings exploded. Gravitational sensors went blind. Time twisted for 6 seconds. When vision returned, the two beings floated face to face. Then the war began. Light itself screamed. The first strike from the Hollow King tore a star apart in a nearby system. But the buried one absorbed the energy into its body and threw it back, tenfold. The feedback shattered empty planets. The drowned, still watching from the shadows, began to retreat. Even they knew this was not a fight they belonged in. On Earth, people cried in confusion. Weather went wild. Storms appeared in places they never had before. Volcanoes woke up. Earth itself was reacting, not to the Hollow King or the buried one, but to the energy between them. The fight shook the universe. One strike bent space like paper. Another created a ripple that sent shock waves into dark space. Waves that would hit other galaxies in centuries. But something was wrong. Amina felt it first. She touched the floor of the command center and closed her eyes. "They're not just fighting," she whispered. "They're tearing reality." General Reyes looked over. "What do you mean?" "They're breaking the seal that keeps the old layers of existence locked. Layers that hold things worse." Reyes frowned. "There's something worse than this?" Amina opened her eyes full of fear. "Yes." Back in the deep void, the Hollow King roared. It launched a final pulse, an attack that didn't destroy matter, but erased memory. Every drone watching the battle forgot what it had seen. Computers froze. Human minds lost the last 20 seconds. Except Amina. She held on, barely. She saw what happened. The buried one stopped the final pulse, not with power, but by stepping into its own shadow. The attack passed through it, hit nothing, and vanished. Then, the buried one struck back. It didn't attack the Hollow King's body. It struck its soul, with something that no one had seen before. Understanding. For a second, the Hollow King stopped. It trembled, it remembered, and it screamed. That scream wasn't heard with ears. It was felt in bones, in hearts, in time itself. The kind of scream that made a galaxy shiver. But it didn't die. Instead, it ran. The Hollow King, for the first time in all creation, turned away. It disappeared into a wound in space, sealing the hole behind it. Gone, but not destroyed. The buried. One turned slowly and looked at Earth again. This time it moved toward the planet. General Reyes stood frozen. "Is it going to finish what the Hollow King started?" No one answered. Amina took a step forward. "It's not here to destroy. It's here to ask something." The command center lights flickered. The screens all went dark. Then a single line of text appeared on every display. "You called us. Now listen." Amina stepped to the center console. Her voice was calm, but her body trembled. "We're listening." The words on the screen changed. "You think this was a war. It was not. It was a reminder." Reyes narrowed his eyes. "Reminder of what?" "That the stars are not yours, that power comes with a price, and that the past never stays buried." Then every screen shut off. The buried one vanished, not into space, but into Earth. Somewhere deep beneath the crust, it hid, waiting, watching. Reyes slumped into his chair. "So what now? Are we safe?" Amina looked to the sky. "We're alive. That's all we can hope for right now." But Earth was no longer the same. The drowned had left. The Hollow King had fled. The buried one had returned to the soil of the planet that once helped bury it. And out there, beyond the edge of known space, something else had started to wake up. Because the fight between gods was never truly over. It had only just begun. The planet looked calm, but everyone on Earth could feel it. The silence after the storm wasn't peace. It was warning. The buried one had vanished into the planet's crust. The Hollow King had escaped into the void. And humanity stood in the middle, shaken but alive. General Reyes hadn't left the command center in 2 days. Satellite links were still broken. Energy readings made no sense. Gravity shifts were being reported from deep underground. Then a message arrived. Not through radio, not through sound. It appeared as a dream, shared by every human on Earth. The same exact vision. They saw a cave. Massive. Ancient. The walls were carved with symbols no one understood. At the center stood a door made of black stone, glowing faintly. A voice echoed, deep and cold. "Do not open it. Do not forget why we sealed it." Then the dream ended. Panic spread across the globe. Scientists scrambled to locate the cave. Religions claimed prophecy. Conspiracy groups called it a test. And military leaders had only one question: what door? Amina was the first to figure it out. She found an old archive hidden in Antarctica's underground base, sealed for 300 years. It held records from Earth's final wars before the Great Silence, when humanity had accidentally disturbed something. Beneath the ice, something buried. She showed the data to Reyes. The location matched the dream. "We didn't call the buried one," she said. "We uncovered it centuries ago. It's been watching us since." Reyes stared at the map. "And that door? It's real?" Amina nodded. "Yes, it was part of an ancient prison, not for one being, but for 7. Reyes went pale. Earth's governments met in secret. Some wanted to study the site. Others wanted to destroy it. But before a decision could be made, sensors around the old Antarctic facility failed. Something was moving. Underground. A team was sent in, 10 of Earth's best soldiers. Elite tech. Full support. Only one came back. The survivor was barely conscious. His skin was burned, his mind broken. But he kept repeating one phrase over and over. "The 6th eye opened. The 6th eye opened." No one knew what it meant. But Amina had a guess. "There were 7, she whispered. "The Hollow King was the 3rd, the buried one. Maybe the 5th. Something else just woke up." "The 6th. Reyes clenched his fists. "We're not ready for this." Outside Earth's orbit, new movement began. Stars dimmed around the edges of the solar system. Faint shadows moved between moons. Signals echoed. From dark space, ancient, cracked languages returning from extinction. The drowned were gone. The Hollow King had fled, but the buried one had not left Earth. And it wasn't silent anymore. Deep under Antarctica, the temperature dropped fast. Ice cracked, old stone doors moved, cameras failed, but for a second, one blurry feed showed something standing behind the door, a tall shape with too many arms, each holding a mask made of bone. Then the signal died. Amina was called to the site. She stood before the door with Reyes and a dozen soldiers. The door looked exactly like in the shared dream, but now it pulsed, slow and steady, like a heartbeat. She placed her hand on the stone. It was cold. Then it spoke. Not the buried one, not the hollow king, but a new voice. Calm, hungry, you. Called one of us, and woke us all, the stone cracked. Amina stepped back, eyes wide. It's not a prison anymore. It's a gate. Reyes gave the order to fall back. Seal the site, now! Explosives were placed. Ground shield tech activated. A warning satellite was set to orbit overhead. But deep below, the sixth had already begun to rise. It didn't use weapons. It used dreams. Across the planet, people stopped sleeping, or worse, never woke up. Those who did dream returned with knowledge they couldn't explain. They spoke of impossible things. Cities in fireless voids, oceans made of glass, beasts that whispered songs into bones. One child drew a picture with 6 figures standing on a broken earth, each held a part of the sky. Reyes brought the drawing to Amina. What does this mean? She stared at it for a long time. They're not just coming back, she said slowly. They're returning to finish what they started, long before humans even existed. The sixth wasn't visible like the Hollow King. It didn't roar like the buried one. It entered minds. It planted thoughts. It tested fear. Reyes felt it too. In the dark hours of night, he began hearing things, soft whispers in languages he never learned. He remembered places he'd never seen, dreams where the stars fell in reverse and time bled like water. Amina knew the signs. The sixth is preparing the world, she said, not to destroy it, but to change it. Reyes looked at her. Can we stop it? She didn't answer, because far underground, the ancient stone door pulsed again, and this time it opened a crack. Something breathed through it, and in that breath, the wind on earth shifted. A storm was coming, not of thunder, not of fire, but of forgotten gods, and earth had already invited them in. The crack in the door had grown wider. No alarms were triggered. No earthquakes followed. Just silence, a deep, heavy silence, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Amina stood in the command center, staring at the live feed from Antarctica. The ancient black door was now glowing with pale blue veins. The temperature around it had dropped to levels no sensor could read. One by one, the cameras failed. Not from damage, but from fear. That's what the text said. The systems themselves stopped working, as if the machines understood what waited behind that door. And yet, something had to be done. General Reyes called the last meeting of Earth's leaders. They were exhausted, defeated. Every solution had failed. The Hollow King was gone, but they knew he was watching. The buried one was still silent, but they all felt it. Like something huge was pressing against the world from the inside. Then Reyes said the words no one expected. We have to call the seventh. Everyone went still. Amina's voice cracked. You want to wake the seventh one? After what? The others did? Reyes didn't blink. We didn't survive this far by hiding. The door is open. The sixth is coming. If the seventh was the one even the others feared, maybe it's the only thing that can stop them. But they were buried together for a reason, she whispered. Reyes nodded. Yes, but we're out of time. Earth's last weapon wasn't a bomb. It wasn't a machine. It was a signal, a pattern of light and rhythm buried in ancient ruins long before humans walked upright. The pattern wasn't made by Earth. It was left behind, a warning, a promise, a prison key. Amina prepared the signal. Before she activated it, she looked at Reyes. "If this goes wrong, it already has," he said softly. "Let's finish it." She sent the pulse. Across Earth, lights dimmed. Oceans rippled. Birds fell silent. The sky changed color. Not red, not blue, something in between. Then the stars shifted, just slightly, enough to be noticed, enough to cause fear. For 33 minutes, nothing happened. Then something replied. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't light. It was a pressure inside every living mind, a feeling older than pain. The sky tore, not like an explosion, but like an eye opening in the heavens. The seventh had awakened. It didn't land. It didn't speak. It remembered. And in that memory, humanity saw something terrifying. Long before time, there were 7 beings. Not gods, not monsters. Forces. They shaped stars, broke planets, and fed on existence itself. But the 7th, it turned against the others. It refused to destroy. The 6 betrayed it. They tore it apart, locked it beyond the edge of thought, and now, after thousands of years, the 7th had returned. Reyes collapsed to his knees. Amina wept silently, because the 7th didn't hate them. It didn't want to rule them. It pitied them. It had seen what was coming. The 6th was already inside Earth's mind. People were disappearing, not physically, but mentally. Dreams consumed them. Memories changed. Maps shifted. The Earth was no longer the same planet, and the 6th would not stop until it had replaced every thought, every soul with itself. But now, the 7th stood between Earth and the void. From the skies, a light descended. It wasn't a ship. It was a shape with no form, eyes with no face. Time bent around it like cloth in water. The 6th struck first. Waves of fear, storms of thought. Screams from the past and future mixed into a single roar, but the 7th didn't move. It just looked. And the 6th screamed. All across the world, people woke from terrible dreams, gasping for air. The door in Antarctica slammed shut. The black stone cracked, and then turned to dust. The Hollow King tried to flee again, but the 7th reached across stars without moving. The Hollow King froze and vanished. The Buried One let out a final rumble from the planet's crust, then sank deeper, silent again. The 6th, gone. Torn apart, not by power, but by remembrance. The 7th didn't speak. It only stayed for a few minutes. But in that time, Earth healed. Skies cleared, oceans calmed, the pressure lifted. Then, the 7th faded, not into space, but into every living thing. It didn't leave. It became part of Earth's story. Humanity stood together, shaken but whole. Amina looked up at the stars. "It chose us," she whispered, "not because we're strong, but because we fought, even when we were afraid." Reyes placed a hand on her shoulder. "Then we remember that, every day." Earth went silent again, but this time, it wasn't fear. It was peace, and in the quiet, something remained. A warning carved in light across the moon, only visible once every 100 years. They will return. But so will I. The gods had buried the 7th long ago, but it never stayed buried. It waited for humanity, and when called, it answered.